the biggest thing that I'm seeing is that people have an idea, and most of the times it's a really beautiful idea that can have a really big impact on people. And they start, they fail, and they quit, they shut down. You know, and that's one of the things as an entrepreneur, you always hear that. What is it, like 90% of the entrepreneurs fail in like the first 2 years or something like that. And the way I see it, entrepreneurship is just all about just moving forward, continue doing that, being, like you said, positive, fail a lot, often, and learn from these failures, of course, and then keep going and keep growing. What I'm wondering from you is, what are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned on your path of beginning as an entrepreneur to the stage of where you are now?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've learned a lot on the path. I think probably one of the biggest mentors or the biggest lessons is actually the importance of mentorship and learning. I think I've probably avoided a lot of mistakes, a lot of pitfalls, a lot of challenges, and I've had tons of failures and things. However, I think I've avoided a lot of them because I've pursued mentorship and coaching. And so I mean, it makes sense. For instance, we just did our first live event. So we just had our first live event in Vegas. It was very intense. We invested about $100,000 to pull it off. And so that's by far the biggest kind of project, the most overhead we've taken on so far in our business, to do one thing that was completely not guaranteed. We'd never thrown one before. Sure, we have a level of an audience, but anyone who's ever thrown a live event, any kind of a conference, they know how much work goes into it, how hard it is. So it was a big risk. And one of the things, it ended up being a big success. No guarantee that it would have. And it was our first event. But the truth is, it wasn't our first event. Back in 2003, meaning I've been involved with events since 2003, even as running a small youth group. Our budget was $100 for an event, and like we had to get the freeze pops and like the signage and print out the flyers, now it's 100,000. Then it was $100, but I still was learning and observing, right? Over the years, I have made it a point. And I remember reading a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And he said one of the smartest things you could do as you're growing is do things like volunteer for free and intern places. So I've always valued wisdom. And, in Proverbs, it says wisdom is the principal thing. And so I've always wanted to just get around mentors, learning environments. And if that meant working for free or working for cheap or interning, that's been my path since 2003. So if it just was one lesson, it would be like not just trying to go it on your own, to do it alone, but to realize someone else has already been down that path. They've already made the mistakes, and to be smart and to either align yourself with them or learn from them. You can avoid so much. There's 3 ways to get wisdom. The first one is through your own mistakes. That's the worst way to get wisdom, is to like, hey, let me try to throw an event. Shoot, I failed at all of this. Let me do it better next year. How about you learn from someone else? The second way is someone else's mistakes. It's much better. And so, for example, one of my mentors, Chalene Johnson, I've been a part of her event, Marketing Impact Academy, for the last 4 years. I shot the video testimonials. I've seen behind the scenes. I've seen the way they market it. I've heard the conversations. I've had other mentors in my life where I on the drive to the airport, I heard him talking about, so how do we do? How close do we come? And I've been observing, I've been paying attention. So I've been studying, and learning and immersing myself with mentors. And then the third way to get wisdom, though, is you can also buy wisdom. I think it's so funny that we can buy a $20 book, a $15 book, and potentially get a decade of someone's life. Again, with the 25 pitfalls they hit that they're warning you not to go down. And it's so surprising that not more people will spend $20 or buy a conference ticket and a plane ticket or invest in a course, because the shortcut, that's the shortest way. You can buy wisdom. Like you can buy, someone's already done the path. If you or I are going to climb Mount Everest, we're not just going to be like, let's just give it a shot. Let's head down there, buy some clothes at REI and figure this thing out. Nobody does that. In fact, it's so dangerous. You never do that. What do? You get a guide who's done it before. You invest in training from someone who knows what you need to learn. And then you get a map, and that you follow that map, and you go up to one camp and down to one camp, and you go through a whole process that's been outlined. there's no reason to reinvent the wheel when people have been climbing Everest for years and they've already given us the template. I'm stunned, though, that a lot of entrepreneurs skip past the template. It's kind of like guys that have too much pride to ask for directions, and I'm guilty of that, right? Honey, I know how to get there. I don't need to ask for directions. Are you sure you know how to get there? Because I'm on my phone and it says we're going the wrong way. Well, your phone doesn't know anything. Siri doesn't know anything, you know? But I think that we need the humility to position ourselves. So anyways, that's the one lesson. Mentorship, investing in learning, in interning. And so if there's a second lesson, I've tried to always pick jobs and positions. Now I'm a full-time entrepreneur, but on my journey, I've always picked jobs not because of the money I could make, but because of the personal development I could learn in those positions. So I was way less concerned with my salary and much more concerned with the environment, the lessons, the things I could learn. And so at every stage, I've wanted to be immersed in places that would level me up. And I've seen the value in that. I think that is also a long-term, number 3, having a real long-term perspective rather than a short-term perspective. I think some people, they want the money all today. They want the results all today. And I think it was Tony Robbins that said, people overestimate what you can accomplish in 1 year, but underestimate what you can accomplish in 10. If I could choose, I'm here in Seattle right now streaming with you. If I could choose, which is a lot of like expensive cost of living here, but if I could choose, if I could get $100K a year in a position, but like it just was just kind of be chill, it just kind of would be whatever, I would much rather take $60K in a position where I was around somebody that was going to level me up. I was in an environment that was going to level me up, because while you may have making more money in the short term, that position that is going to develop me is going to position me for much more success in the long term. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs are focused too much on the short game, where the long game is where all the action is. Like I'm fine for the next, for the next decade even. Like, I'm only 35. Like I was watching a speaker named Earn McManus. He's 60, just killing it on stage. Last night I'm watching it on YouTube. And I was like, dude, I want to be like him at 60. And if that's the case, I got 25 years. I can still be playing the massive long game and not trying to just get short-term ROI during that process. So those are a few things.
Exactly. Wow, great lessons. I really appreciate for sharing that. I'm guilty of the first one where you mentioned is like, try to gain wisdom by just making your own mistakes. And I would have loved to known. I didn't even know about the thing of mentors. Like I have the feeling for me now, it's like, wow, all of a sudden there's mentors everywhere, but I've never realized that. And I lost everything. I lost everything.
Wow.
I lost, like, my son's now 5, but when he was 2, I lost like 6 months of his life that I wasn't there because I had to work far away from him. That hurts. So I love you sharing that. I hope people are paying attention to that, because what you're saying, a book costs $20, well, maybe 50 if you have a really, really big book, but still the knowledge that's in that book is ridiculous. And I didn't realize that until a year ago. So I'm really happy that you bring that up. And that's one of the messages that I'm sending out there as well, that hopefully people pick that up real quick, earlier than I.
And even practically, one of the things that helped, because I had this skill of video production, but I encourage people, I've used that skill. There's another proverb that says, if you see a man who's skilled at what he does, he'll serve before kings, he won't serve before common men. And it talks about how your gift will make a way for you. But I thought about, like, I've always wanted to get in environments where I could learn. So I love conferences. I love personal development, personal growth. Because again, if I grow better and stronger and I get more wisdom and more ideas, even if my business fails. Like I remember one time somebody was talking to Henry Ford, right? The famous founder of a Ford Motor Company, who eventually amassed massive wealth. And someone said, well, of course now you're confident. Now you're overconfident because you've got all this wealth. But they said, well, what if though? What if you lost it all? If you started from zero today, kind of like you got lucky, what if you lost it all? What would you do? And what Henry said was, he goes, I'd just rebuild it again. Why? Because he'd already built it. Because he had gone through the process. He had learned the lessons. He had seen the ups and downs. He wasn't afraid of actually losing it all, because one thing you can't lose in life is your smarts, your wisdom, your emotional intelligence, your EQ, your IQ that you've developed, your, all these different things. So that's why I've always realized, like Warren Buffett says, the best investment you can make is in yourself. Because you can invest in Amazon, it might go up, it might go down. But when you invest in yourself and your understanding of whatever your industry. So all that to say is that over the years, early on, I went to a lot of conferences as the video guy. And I wanted to go to those, and sometimes they'd say, hey, we'll pay you $200, and I'd be like, that'd be like nothing. It'd like barely, but I was like, I'm not there for the money. Even they'd fly me out, cover my meals, pay me like $200, $500 or something. And I would produce work that was probably worth way more. But again, I was just there. I was like, just get me in the room. I just want to be a fly on the wall. I just want to learn. I want to observe. And so for some, getting on a plane, investing in some of these conferences or business development or learning, it could be expensive. I just want to encourage people. You want the resilience to find a way. If you can volunteer, a friend of mine, Michael Stelzner, runs the largest social media marketers conference called Social Media Marketing World. Very expensive ticket. I mean, to go to the full thing costs like maybe $1,200, $1,500, but they have a volunteer program. Sure, you're going to have to do some work. Sure, you're going to have to do some things, but man, get there and volunteer, like whatever stage of life you're in, or find a way to just like to get there, to be an administrative assistant, to help in some way, or to use your skills, because man, investing in yourself is always, always the best investment.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I like that what you mentioned, and it just clicked in my brain as well about being a volunteer, because these shows, they need so many people and so many volunteers that, the opportunities there, if you go after it, are really simple and they're huge. So that's also a great tip. Thanks for that.
Are you still meeting up with your friends now that you're a father? Kids making you stress out. You got no time for yourself to work out, read, or relax. Can you still remember the time you were hanging out with your friends, feeling energetic, happy, and confident? Spending time together and talking about your life and your crazy dreams. You're feeling alone now, don't you? No one to share your challenges with, and you're just running around from one storm into the next. Well, it's time to change this now. Join me and the Brotherhood of Fearless Fathers to speak on a weekly basis with like-minded dads to crush your challenges, face your fears with determination, be held accountable, and regain control of your life. If you want to become the hero your family needs you to be, then go to becomeafearlessfather.com/brotherhood. I'm looking forward to seeing you on one of our next calls.